Welcome to the Cookbook, where we invite guests on to share the ingredients of what has helped make them the successes that they are. All of it, the good, the not so good. You're not going to find anything half-baked here. And our kitchen gets messy sometimes. That's when the fun starts. So come on and join us. Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Cookbook. I'm your host, Iris Goldfeder, and I am crazy excited about my guest today because we actually have it working now, and I'll explain that in a minute. My guest today is Hayden Orme, CEO and owner of HBH & Company. I am going to read her bio, and then I'm going to bring her on before anything else goes wrong. Okay, here we go. Hayden Orme is a speaker, a published writer, a 50-ton master merchant mariner captain, and the owner of and CEO of Handled by Hayden. I am not doing that over. Handled by Hayden and Company, LLC. Hayden supports her clients in claiming their space and authority as the empowered CEOs of their own businesses. Handled by Hayden and Company, LLC provides a unique approach to remote support and business development. Hayden and her team utilize their combined experiences and expertise to provide strategy and support tailored to clients' unique needs. They combine elements of small business consulting, strategy, operations, executive assistant, digital marketing services, and graphic design services to give their clients back the time and freedom to operate solely in their zone of genius while delegating the rest. Phew! Okay, so without further ado, before anything else goes wrong, let's bring on Hayden.
Hey, Iris.
Hey, Hayden.
Good to be here.
Good to finally have you. Okay, so for those of you who can't see this and are just listening, so we have had nothing but technical issues for the last almost 45 minutes. And then I was trying to do the introduction and take 6. I don't even know how many times it took me to do it, but we're here. So
persistence pays off.
I know. Persistence, right? Always. So, okay. So the first thing that I want to talk about is the fact that you are a 50-ton merchant mariner. That is like the coolest thing because people hear that and they think of a big burly guy with a beard and
Yeah.
and here we have and those of you who can't see Hayden, she's quite beautiful, blonde hair, blue eyes, not somebody that you would think would be, handling, or I shouldn't say that, not the stereotype. So she's breaking the stereotype because she kicks ass. So tell us about it.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, sailing and the ocean have been, they've always been a passion of mine. There's photos of me when I was 3 years old. My parents took when I was just kept wandering into the ocean when we were there for Thanksgiving, and it was freezing cold. And I just always felt this draw to the ocean. And when I was a little older, a young teen, I learned how to sail. And it really, when they say it gets in your blood, it really does. So every, school break and summer vacation growing up, I'd get a job working on boats, by boats, near boats, eventually coaching, teaching, running charters. And eventually I decided that I no longer wanted to be taking the orders. I wanted to be giving the orders and I wanted to be in charge. So I wanted to be the captain. So I had to have 720 days at sea and take a rigorous Coast Guard course, which was going nights and weekends for 6 months. Pass, I won't bore everyone, pass all sorts of tests, exams. It was about a year process and a lot of documentation. And I finally got my captain's license and I was awarded 50 tons based on my experience. So that means I can captain a boat legally up to 50 gross tons.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, that's really a big part of who I am. And I think that shines through in my authentic branding for my business.
Oh, it definitely shines through in your branding. So just to get the visual, how big would a 50-ton vessel be?
So I always laugh a little when people ask me this because it's kind of like saying, so how much does a car weigh? Because there's like a smart car and then there's a Mack truck. Right. So it really depends on the materials of the boat. Is it a wooden boat? Is it a fiberglass hull? A lot of different components go into how much a boat weighs, but anywhere from like 50 to 100 feet pretty much is
wow.
kind of a safe bet.
Wow. Okay. That's impressive. Wow. And your branding, for those of you who can't see this, actually they can't, you don't have your background on. But Hayden's
another technical issue there.
That was another. Guys, this was like a shit show getting this thing going. I can't even tell you. So, and we're in StreamYard, so we're chatting, saying, thank God it's us, because if it was like other people would be like, what is going on? But with Hayden's branding, she has a sail as part of the logo. Actually, it's a boat, right? It's like a sail.
It's a sailboat. Yeah, there's a little story behind my branding. So I rebranded and relaunched this past February because I really wanted my company to not just reflect the caliber to which I had grown it, and I'm, we are growing quickly, but I wanted it to be authentically me, and for that to really shine through in my branding. And so my logo is actually a mock-up of my dream boat, that I have a picture of on my wall. One day I'll have that boat. So for me, that's really symbolic.
Nice. And you're wearing your brand colors today. You're very
I am, I just have to be representing, right?
There you go. And I'm in my Johnny Cash black as usual. So, okay. So now, when did you start Handled by Hayden? How long ago?
So we just started our third year. Our 2-year anniversary was beginning of April. So we're in our third year of business, and it's going wonderfully well. I left corporate in the end of 2019 and started, took some time off, and then kind of started things a little bit, but as everyone says these days, then COVID hit, and that was a bit of an odd year. So things really kind of got traction and got up and running April of 2020, right?
Yeah, because that was when 2020. So when you left corporate, did you leave corporate with the intention of starting your own business?
It happened somewhat organically. I'd been in corporate my whole adult life. So I had been feeling for years and years and years. I mean, I always felt like something just wasn't aligning for me. I wasn't happy. I wasn't fulfilled. I just kept feeling like there must be more. There must be more. And this isn't it. So I was sitting at my desk for years thinking, well, what if I did this? What if I did this? But I'm leaving this security. And I was just kind of spinning my wheels. And then I think the universe heard me and said, well, we're going to eliminate your position because the CEO I supported was retiring, and they offered me a relocation again for another position within the company, but I didn't want to relocate again. I'd relocated across country twice in 3 years, and I was, established here. I love it here. I'm closer to my family, a lot of reasons, in a wonderful relationship, and I didn't want to relocate again. So I thought, well, this is sort of handing me the opportunity on a silver platter. And I decided to take a couple offers to interview with a few different companies, and I immediately started to have that just visceral reaction. Like, it was almost like an internal panic attack. I can't do this again. So I thought, well, that's, I really have to listen to my gut. It's telling me that I really need to just, be my own captain and do this thing. And I knew that I wanted to have my own company. I was still really trying to figure out conceptually what that would look like, but it evolved very organically, and here we are.
There you go. So, I speak to a lot of people, and it's like, well, what made you decide to become an entrepreneur? And I would say half of the people that I spoke to, it happened organically, right? Mm-hmm. It was just something that, that same thing happened to me. I lost my job, and it was like, okay, do I collect unemployment? Do I go work for somebody else? Do I start my own business? Wasn't going to collect unemployment. Wasn't going to work for anybody else again. And so,
yeah.
So I get it. So now you were an executive assistant, right?
I was, yeah. I had a variety of different roles over the years in corporate. My most recent position was supporting the chairman and CEO of the McKesson Corporation, which at the time was a Fortune 5 company. So I ran his
Wow.
license office. And as you can imagine, that had a very demanding schedule. So I went through almost a bit of a withdrawal once I stopped. I was actually talking about this recently. It was like the day that I left the company and everything got shut down, I kind of felt like I was going through a stress detox.
Wow.
And I realized when I was at the other end of that, just how burned out I had been. I called it like terminal burnout. I had been operating in burnout for so long.
Wow.
And both my parents were and are entrepreneurs. And I had always sort of seen that and seen the pros and cons of entrepreneurship and always said, like, one day I'll work for myself. It was always one day. So I thought, well, why not make one day today? And so I thought, it really, my company has evolved a lot in the little over 2 years, but it's really about, you can have success, you can be happy and have joy in your business. You can have both of those things. They're not mutually exclusive. But I think culturally, they are in today's society. Like, there's this sort of status symbol around being burned out and doing it all. And that just doesn't need to be the case. So I try to, more successfully than not some days, but try to practice what I preach in being that empowered CEO and having that balance and alignment and utilizing my team, my crew, and trying to support and guide other entrepreneurs and executives in achieving that balance and really just aligned life. So they're happy and they're successful, however that looks like for them, right? Because joy and success isn't the same for everyone. It's not a cookie cutter model. So
right.
I ask my clients, what does joy and success look like for you in your business and in your life? And then we focus on where those two intersect.
I love that. That is okay. So no, that's great, because you go to an agency where they have VAs or they're recruiting, and that's never asked. It's just it's just who do you need to fill in what gap, right? Not what is going to bring you joy. No one's ever asked me that. My wife sometimes, but even that, right? It's like so. I think that right there is like what would, for me, differentiate you from anybody else who's doing what you're doing.
Yeah, I think business doesn't have to be done the way it's always been done. And so that's really what I'm trying to sort of spread around, is helping people actualize their dreams of successful, happy entrepreneurship.
Right. And you're doing it successfully. So, obviously the proof is in the pudding. So you were an assistant to this, big guy in a Fortune 5 company. You went through your withdrawal. You started this company now that you provide executive assistants and a bunch of other, VAs, as well as recruiting, which we found the other day. So I'm not even going to ask, if you miss corporate, because I know the answer to that already. So it's like, hell no. But how did you create your model? Like what made you, create what you created?
So I started by thinking about, I did kind of a thought dump, if you will. Like, what would the ideal CEO be today? In my mind, what do I think the ideal CEO would look like? And not just how their lives are, but how they run a business, how they hire, how they retain talent, kind of the holistic model. And that's kind of my foundation and my mission. So I had worked with an amazing business coach. She's an authentic branding strategist, and she really helped me with my rebrand. But I wanted to rely on, I've done corporate event planning, I've done other things, I've done marketing and sales, I've done a lot of other things in corporate as well. So I wanted to marry all of my experience with my passion, which is really, that's where my zone of genius lies. And then explore how that can serve clients. What does the market need? So I really tried to listen to the pain points with the clients that were coming to me initially. And they not only needed administrative and project support, they really needed that sort of strategic business partner. They needed business development guidance, operations support, strategy. They needed digital marketing support. That came with some graphic design needs. So I really tried to listen to the primary needs and the kind of the core needs. And those kept coming up repeatedly over and over and over. So that sort of evolved my business model. And one of the things that really sets us apart is we don't have VAs. We have executive assistants that provide remote support. So every assistant within my company has had at minimum 10 years supporting a C-suite executive in corporate. So you're getting this very high caliber of support and getting that remotely. So it's still virtual support, but it's at a different experience level than perhaps the majority of VAs might have.
Right. And thank you for correcting me. So I appreciate
it's a very common misconception. It's a very interchangeable term, but I like to delineate the VA versus the EA.
Right. Well, and here's the other thing, right, is that I think even further differentiates you, because it's not just the, run of the mill typical. And I knew that going in, but I always call them virtual assistants. But, 10 years experience is a lot. Mm-hmm. So, a lot of the VAs out there, and not to take anything away from VAs, they're all very, good at what they do. Okay.
Yeah.
Most of them,
it's just a different model.
It's a different model and a different caliber. And I will say that word because, there are different levels, right? And
right.
So, and if you're providing support for CEOs, you need that. So I think that's really cool. And I thought I knew that. So I thought I knew everything about you, Hayden, and now I'm learning even more. So, and when we're done with this interview, we're having like a big ass glass of wine just for all of you people.
Yes.
So
we earned it with all our tech issues.
Oh my God, it was just so funny. So you work with high caliber executive assistants, and of course, Skylar is going to chime in. And so who's your ideal client?
So we work with high vibe, mission driven entrepreneurs, CEOs, executives who are typically in the multi six figure and up revenue range. So they've reached that pain point past which they know they need to make a change. Either they can't scale anymore because they just can't take on anything else. They're doing a lot themselves, or perhaps they already have a team, but they don't have the right kind of support, or there's a lot of chaos behind the scenes. So we work with service providers, service industry providers. We're pretty industry agnostic, but we work a lot with coaches, creatives, healers, and then we have a pretty broad range of corporate clients as well in the C-suite who need either interim support with that caliber of assistant, or they might need some project management support. Maybe it's a project based, like a 3 to 6 month project, and they just don't have the internal headcount to support that. So we have kind of the two tiers, the entrepreneurial side, and then working with an executive and or their team in corporate. So, but really, that alignment is important. That mission driven, heart centered is really where we find our right someones.
I really love that. Okay. And let's go back to, you said healers. What kind of healers?
Gosh, we've worked with acupuncturists, chiropractors, energy healers. Really, it's anyone who, it really comes down to, they realize that they want the help, and they realize that they're doing it all. And for example, we had a local healthcare practice, and the woman was just lovely. She's very renowned. She is an amazing provider for all of her patients, but she was operating in chronic burnout. She had a young baby. She was doing the cleaning in the office after hours. She was returning the phone calls, doing the booking, trying to hire more practitioners. And so the way I start working with all our clients, our client journey, and the way I started with her is, let's take a very evaluative, I evaluate their business model. I do what's called an empowered CEO business assessment. So I want to look at the bird's eye view, but then I get very micro. Let's look at the infrastructure of your business. That needs to be shored up, streamlined, and as automated as possible, because we can't pile anything else on, right? Until the foundation can actually support the additional weight. So once that's done, we look at, now what's the triage of needs? So for her, she really needed a practice manager. So we recruited for and placed a direct hire full-time practice manager. And then we could help her with her digital marketing strategy and growing her newsletter and a logo redesign and all of that stuff and ongoing support. Because if we had just said, yeah, we'll give you marketing support and sort of threw it in there, it would have sunk her ship. Right. So it's, what do we need? It's really the hierarchy of needs, and how can we optimize our support for our clients by really making sure that we get very prescriptive with our recommendations.
That's awesome. And I love that it's very tailored.
It is, yeah.
Because there are a lot of businesses out there that are cookie cutter, right? And you can't be cookie cutter. And being in digital marketing myself and marketing, I get it. When you sit with a client, a lot of times they tell you what they need, but they really don't know what they need. Mm-hmm. They think they know what they need, right? And then, when you sit down, you kind of uncover that you actually kind of need this. And then to guide them to the acceptance of that fact is a little bit challenging sometimes, right? Because they're just hell-bent on, this is what I need. And it's like, yeah, but that's not what's going to help you. I know you.
Right. And that is a part of what we do is kind of helping them figure out what it is that they need. But like I said, sort of the triage. And if someone is hell-bent, like you said, on this is what I need, but it's not necessarily, we're not in alignment there, then, I'm very comfortable in saying, I don't feel like we're the best fit, and I can provide you with some other names, but we really want to make sure that we're not just looking to, fill the client slots. We really want to work with people who we can help and build a long-term relationship. So.
Right. And that's what we do. I mean, when, I sit down with somebody, I do an assessment with them, and, I look at their business. I don't get micro like you do, because I don't provide that kind of support. But when it comes to their marketing, it's, really a lot more entailed than I think people realize. Yeah. And I just was working with somebody who, I've actually been working with them probably since January, and we just really started kind of moving and shaking now, right? But it took that long to be like, this is where you want to be. So if this is where you want to be, this is what you need to do.
Right.
If you want to stay here, that's fine, but then I'm not going to be able to help you. But if you want me to help you and you want to get here, then you need to do A, B, C, and D. And finally, after months, and it wasn't like months of badgering, it was just conversations, coffee, Skylar chiming in, all that. And, finally it was like, yeah, you're right. So we did a few things here and there, but, the real kicker was finally like, okay, now let's do it. And, some people get frustrated waiting. And for me, I don't ever want to push anybody to do something. Like, I don't want to tell somebody, this is what you need. I've had salespeople tell me, well, you need to show them that this is where they need to be. And it's like, I'm not going to push somebody there. Right. I will guide you. I will have conversations with you. And if after, X amount of conversations, you don't see that, that's okay. If you do see it, then we can move forward. And that's pretty much, what happened. So I feel like we're really aligned on that piece of it.
Definitely.
And right. I mean, so this is for entrepreneurs and people thinking about becoming entrepreneurs. And I laugh because I think we talk about this every show, is that, the people who are thinking about becoming entrepreneurs think a lot of times think it's easy. They think, my favorite thing is, woohoo, I'm going to be my own boss, and, and it's not always that, right? My favorite thing is, I had a client who was going to be in Hawaii and she wanted to have a meeting at 6 p.m., which I thought was 6 p.m. Well, it's not. It's midnight for me. I didn't. So I said, yeah, we'll do 6 p.m. And I hopped on my Zoom call at 6 p.m. and I'm like, what the hell is she? And then it was like, so I texted her. She's like, it's like noon here, whatever time it was. I was like, oh, I'll see you at midnight.
Yeah, time zones are tricky things.
Yes, they are, especially So, but for me, that was like a learning curve, because I just thought Pacific time, right? So
right,
it was all good. But our time isn't always our own, as much as we want to make it our own. And I know a lot of people, we're in the Dames together, and I've had a few Dames on it. We always talk about it. A lot of people are like, just you're on your own timeline, and I'm not there yet. Maybe you are, maybe, I'm not there yet. I'm getting there, but I still, my clients dictate when I'm going to meet with them for the most part, right? If they can only meet on a certain day, that's when I'm going to meet them. I'm not going to say no, right? So, so what advice would you have for somebody who's out there thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, and, they haven't made the move yet. They're thinking about it. They also think that it's going to be this like glorified thing. So, what advice do you have for those?
Well, folks? I'd say don't stifle the woohoo, but also reality check that it's a lot of work, and it can be a very lonely existence if you don't surround yourself with like-minded entrepreneurs and an amazing network, and really have those clients that fill your cup. So it really boils down to balance. And I have an amazing crew. I mean, I'm really blessed to have such an amazing team in my business, and they keep me in check on a daily basis. Someone will say eventually, like, Hayden, you're kind of slipping back in your corporate mindset. Like, you can't work 12 hours. Like, you can't skip. So, because I can easily do that. And I would say for people who, especially looking to leave corporate, it's think about why you want to be your own boss and really get clear on that. And, I say a lot, I have 2 beautiful stepdaughters, and I was talking to my partner the other day, and I said, I said to him, like, I was never asked growing up, I don't think most of us were, what makes you happy, or what do you want your life to look like? It was always, what do you want to be when you grow up? Like, you were supposed to be something. So my hope for kids growing up and for aspiring entrepreneurs is think about what you want your life to look like and build your business to support that. Don't build a business and then have it, the business can easily become the cart behind which you're getting dragged.
I like that.
Sort of where a lot of our clients are headed, and we step in and, pull the reins, stop the cart. Let's reorganize things a little bit. But it really comes down to, what do you want your life to look like? And that was a big part of why I became an entrepreneur, because I didn't want my life to be dictated by other people's schedules and And I didn't want it to be dictated at all.
Right.
I mean, inevitably there's some, like you said, I have days where I do calls, I have days where I work on my business, and inevitably they sort of can bleed into each other, some weeks more than others. But I'm making that choice, right? And yes. You make a choice to take the client calls on the days, you could say, like, we could all say no, but yes, we also need to make money and pay our bills, right? So, right. But there isn't someone saying, Iris, you have to work every Friday until 6:00 at night.
No.
So what do you want your life to look like? And then is the business you want to do going to support that, and figure out that intersection where you can feel joy and alignment and balance and fulfilled in your business. And, I think that's really, if you can kind of find that sweet spot, you're off to a good start.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic advice. And you're right. When we were growing up, it was like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And, like my nieces, right? Olivia and Tally, Olivia wants to be an astronaut, which is phenomenal, but she's also a ballerina. She does ballet and all that. And, and so she's, her parents are of that mindset, right? Not what do you want to be? Who are you? And I had a great call with Jen Koken yesterday. And it was so funny. I was having one of those, when you get those spiraling minutes, right? And you're kind of just going down the thing. And I was sitting there and I was like, I just feel so lost. And she goes, well, let's look at this. Why do you look lost? It was like therapy. And it was just it was so funny because I'm like, for years I was doing X, and now I'm not doing X. I'm doing this, this, and this. And she goes, that's what you're doing. Who do you want to be? Who are you? And it made me go, oh, and it changed everything. Yesterday just changed everything. It kind of made me go, okay, it's not just what I'm doing. It's who am I being? And that was a big, and just yesterday, which, here I am, right, in business for how many years. And just yesterday, I hit this, it's not just about, and I know that it's not just about what I do. Man, you are frozen bad.
Oh, no. Can you see?
Okay, there we go.
I don't know why. I think if I move, it's going to freeze it. But
yeah, I don't know what happened. There you go. Move.
There we go.
Kofi, if we have to edit that, we can. There you go.
Now I'm just sitting here swaying.
I know. Where's Chris? Get Chris. But yeah, so for me, it was an aha moment. And even, that's the thing, right? As entrepreneurs, as long as we've been entrepreneurs, there's always going to be those moments where I think we, where we kind of stop and look at what we're doing and reassess, right? Like, wait a minute, what am I doing? Because my business has evolved in ways that I'm doing things that I never thought I'd be doing. Like I'm, consulting, yes, but mediating, like if you ever would have told me that I'd be mediating for a company, I'd be like, you're out of your mind. But here I am, I did a mediation, last month, and whatever I did worked because the shit that had to get done got done after our meeting. So I was like, okay, that was my moment, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So it's like, oh, okay. So, but where do I put that on my website, right? It's like, I can't put mediator on there. So it's like, when I have a conversation with somebody now, they're like, well, what do you do? Now I tell them everything that I can do. But now when I meet with them, I'll be telling them who I am. This is who I am. This is what I do. This is how and why I do what I do, because it's all purpose driven, right? At the end of the day, it's like, what is your purpose? And I knew my purpose. I just didn't know who am I part. That just never seeped into it. It was always like, here's my trajectory. This is what I want to achieve. So I
And I
thought
think
that
when you
was
remove the should from the, like, there's so much, you should do this. You should be here. You should be hitting this revenue. You should be on this trajectory. When you remove that, it really is, who are you? How do you want to live your life? And I say to my clients a lot that, and my team, that there is a lot of vulnerability that needs to be involved in not just being an entrepreneur, but asking for help. I mean,
Yep.
asking for help takes way more courage than just being like, I can do it myself.
right.
Because I say to people that, yes, you can pretty much do anything, but you can't do everything. So when there's this sort of stigma that we should be doing it all, but that's counterproductive, and it's counter to our holistic success, our happiness, our fulfillment, our joy. So we really I work very hard to hold that space for that sort of vulnerability, because when people finally come to us for help, a lot of times they'll say, well, I've heard people say, my business coach said I shouldn't hire an assistant until I make X in revenue. And I said, all right, well, how long have you been trying to make X in revenue? Well, 7 years.
Wow.
And I burned out. But this year is going to be the year. And I said, well, so you keep doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result, and I'm hearing you're burned out. So,
which, by the way, is the definition of insanity, right?
Right. So it's vulnerable to not just ask for help, but let people into your business. Because entrepreneurs, like, our businesses are our babies. They're an extension of us in so many ways. We built our businesses. So it's vulnerable, it's scary. And so part of, we really take a very nurturing and intuitive approach, but also very pragmatic. Mm-hmm. So we want to have people feel safe. They have a trusted guide, they have a team with them. But we're also, we're also the reality checkers. But it's tough. And if we get caught up in the should be doing this, or look, that person's already making 6 figures, or, they've hit 7 figures and they've been in business a year less than me, and I should be doing this, then that's so much wasted energy. And
right. Putting so much pressure on yourself.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, and then that's adding stress. And the whole idea of doing this is so that you're not stressed out all the time. Right.
Exactly.
It's funny because I see so many people, so many businesses doing exactly what, you just said, as far as comparing themselves. And I stopped doing that a long time ago. I feel that I'm where I'm supposed to be. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm working with the people that I'm supposed to be working with. And, the more that the right people come along, because, you talked about your authentic brand, right? Mm-hmm. And I find that, I had a coach tell me, and I know people listening have heard this before, but I had a coach tell me years ago, try to be less you. Yeah, because New Yorker in Indiana, trying to get business in this group of introverts, and I'm all like, hey, everybody, let's do this. Let's do this. And he was like,
play some rock music.
Yeah, right. Let's do it. Whatever. And it was like, be less you. And I did. I was like, oh, okay. So pull back a little. He said, yeah. So I did. And I was miserable. And I didn't realize that I was miserable. Not only was I miserable, but the clients that I was attracting were not my people.
Not your people.
Not my people. And then when I finally got to the point and I was like, fuck that. What do you mean don't be, And I started being me. Mm-hmm. And I started realizing who my authentic self was and not giving a rip what anybody thought. Mm-hmm. The right clients came. The right people in my life came. Like everything just kind of,
amazing how that works out.
Isn't it though? I mean, it really is. And when you get to the point that, you don't care, because I used to worry about what people thought about me all the time. And I used to worry, I think, probably about everything. You ever watch South Park, Tweak, the little kid who's like, that's how, after a while, right? You start worrying about all that. That's what you start, emulating. And it's just been so different because the people your present company included, right? The people that you meet are the ones that are, you're supposed to be in your, in your, what's the
In your
word?
circle and your
Thank
your
you.
your
Yes.
tribe. Yeah.
In your tribe. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. In your
Yeah.
tribe. And it's so important, because when you have that, then you have even more support, and you can be vulnerable because they get it. Right.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
big time. Like when I was talking to Jen, like, don't even ask me. I would never, like a year ago, I never would have been with somebody. Jen and I spoke twice, and she was like, what's going on? And I was just like, here we go. And
Mm-hmm.
I allowed myself to be vulnerable, and I got the support that I needed, and I got the answer that I needed, not from her.
Mm-hmm.
The answer was in me, right? Which is how
Yeah.
it always is. And it was huge. And you're 100% right. When you can be vulnerable, amazing things happen.
Yeah, and I think it's not just about. I'm trying to think of a good way to put this. Like when you said you talked to Jen, who's amazing. I mean, I love her work, and she's just she's just got such an amazing personality. She's just a bright light. But when you are not just working with your right people, but you're networking with, and you're meeting and you're speaking with your right people,
Yes.
you feel, you have that connection. You feel that sort of safety. Like it is safe to be vulnerable and open up. And I think, I always say, listen to your gut. I mean, your gut is your best compass in business. And I've been on calls with people, and within the first 10 seconds, oh, this just isn't my person.
Right.
I don't really have any interest in opening up to them. But really quickly, even on Zoom, because 99% of my business is on Zoom now.
Exactly, right.
Wonderful. I mean, I just signed the most amazing client yesterday in Canada, and she's like a kindred spirit. And I met her through a network of people, but to my point, when you are like you and I, within a few minutes, I mean, we were just laughing and talking, and it was great. We could open up, and I felt like we shared our sort of life history with the first hour. But you have that intuitive feeling like it's okay. I'm with someone with whom I can relate and share our stories, and we're coming from a very similar level, and so we can speak each other's language. And that's special, because when you have this community of entrepreneurs, we're all going through it. We're going through the same stuff. Right. So we're all just the same book, different page. So
yes.
Yeah.
I love that. And I'm not, working with Jen. This was like her book is becoming a movie, and, they were reading the script in LA, and I'm like, I want to hear all the things, so that's what that was about. And then we just started talking about, the other stuff.
Awesome.
Oh yeah. She's just, I'm like so thrilled for her. And the fact that this book that she wrote is going to be a movie is like mind blowing. Right. So something that you just said, as entrepreneurs, we're all going through it. Mm-hmm. So for the seasoned entrepreneur, what is something that you have gone through, that you've come through the other end of, and you were like, whew, that was hairy, and I know there's probably 100 different things.
I'm thinking, which story do I share?
I know, exactly, right?
Because that's life, right?
How much time do you have? So
get your popcorn, let's talk.
There you go.
I just so a little tangent, little background. I'm an executive contributor to an online magazine called Brains, BRAINZ, Brains Magazine. And I contributed to an expert panel recently, and it was about how to apologize to your clients without saying sorry. And it covers so many things, but I think a lot of it is there's this sort of almost toxic shame wrapped up in, you run your own company, and you're not supposed to make mistakes. Like, you're not supposed to make mistakes. You're supposed to be really on point, and your services are supposed to be perfect, and everything's supposed to be polished from day one. And the reality is, we're all people, right? Doesn't matter what level you are. We all put our, pants on one leg at a time, as the saying goes. And recently there was a scenario where we had an employee that they made a mistake, and it happens, right? And it was about not how to, own the mistake, but how can we make it right? So, I wanted to go above and beyond and make it right for the client in a gesture of appreciation. And it really became not so much how can we fix the problem, but what can we do to turn this into a positive experience for not just the client, but I want to make sure that it's positive for both the client and my employees. Mm-hmm. So how can we get everyone coming out on the other end happy and actually better off than we were before? And, everything went well. It cost me a little bit of money, but, that we all make mistakes. I mean, the best companies in the world make mistakes. And I think it was hairy. Initially I had that sense of shame, like, oh my goodness, this is my name. This is my business. I had that initial sort of internal reaction. And then it was like, wait a minute, what can I do? Every problem has a solution, right? What can I do?
This is an opportunity. This is an opportunity.
It's an opportunity.
Yeah. Yep.
And, it based on sort of how, I think it really comes down to, like, for me, when I've had some pretty catastrophically horrible experiences, not that that's what this was, but with various companies, mm-hmm. It's how the customer service handles it and what they do to make it right. That's what I remember. And that's typically what's going to get me to come back again. So it's the plan of action afterwards to remedy. So it really is an opportunity. And I think, so there's been scenarios like that. And then I will throw one other answer in, though, because I think it's important, because I've heard it come up a lot in the last few years of being an entrepreneur. In our early days, well, I'll speak for myself, I took sort of any client I could. Then I got to become more discerning, but that sort of letting that first client go, like, they were taking so much of my mental, emotional energy, well beyond the hours for which they were paying me. Yep. And I had to really realize, like, okay, I don't have to go through this. Right. I'm my own boss. I can say, no, thank you. We're no longer a good fit, and move on. And after that happened a few times, each time that when I opened up that space, it brought in room for another right person. And so now, I mean, I have the most amazing clients, and I'm happy with all of them. And, I think it's mutual. But so I would say, just really, like, again, trust your gut. If it doesn't feel like it's in alignment, it's not. And you don't have to put up with something that doesn't feel right for you. You can let it go. The right thing will come along. And we all make mistakes. I mean, it's part of life, and business is part of life. So it happens. Yeah. And I agree. I just to tell you about a bad customer service experience to contrast it. Right. Mm-hmm. I bought a certain brand of monitor. Mm-hmm. And I also own that brand's TV and washing machine and, whatever. Mm-hmm. And the monitor, after 2 months, crapped out, called the company. They said, okay, well, you need to send it to us. We need to look at it, and then we'll decide what we're going to do. So I work with, 2 monitors and mm-hmm. whatever. So I was like, okay, so I'll be down a monitor. I said, so I need to send this to you. It's less than 2 months old, and I need to send this to you. Well, if I tell you that it took 7 months, 7 months to get a refund at this point, because they sent me a monitor back that was in worse shape than the one So you talk about FUBAR, right? It was just like, oh my God. And that is what stuck out in my mind. And I will never buy that brand's stuff again. It was just like service. So to your point, when you have a good experience, because I've had a lot of good experience, especially lately, those are the people I'm going back to. Mm-hmm.
My clients know that if there's a misstep somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to be more than taken care of.
Exactly.
And I think half of them hope something happens because they know how well they're going to be taken care of. Right?
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, please screw up so that, you
We're
can
going to get even more.
Exactly. So, and that's where you want to be. So, kudos to you. Although I would expect nothing less from knowing you, right? That you would handle something like that. And the fact that you make that into a positive experience, right? Not only for the client, but for the employee, because the employee is beating themselves. They're like, oh my God.
They feel, no one's going to beat them up more than they are.
Than themselves, right? Exactly. So to be able to turn it around and make it positive for them too speaks to the kind of leader that you are. So I think that is a lot. I think that says a lot.
Thank you.
So kudos.
Thank you. If you see,
like go, woo.
I was sort of doing this, trying to keep my cat out of them. They've emerged. The joys of working from home.
It's okay. Fabienne is in our group. She did a podcast with, a couple of weeks ago, and she had Theo, her son, and she was really like, oh my God, he's going to come in the room, so let's keep this short. And I'm like, no, let him be in the room. This is life.
Yeah.
What people don't get, this is not, and even if it was on TV, I still wouldn't give a shit, because life is life. You have, hello, kitty. Mine are, like I said, behind a gate because we have a 9-week-old demon.
Yeah. Well, as part of the technical issues, as you know, I had to leave my office and come upstairs to do this from the kitchen table.
Right.
So normally I'd have an office door closed, but she wants to be part of the podcast too.
Well, and she can. What's her name?
Freya.
Fran?
Freya.
Oh, Freya. Okay. I was going to say Fran's my mother-in-law's name, but okay, Freya. It's not Fran.
It's not Fran.
So Freya, I like that. That's a cool name. Is there like anything behind that, or?
Oh, of course there is. There's so she is. It's I'm probably going to botch the meaning, but it's Nordic, and I have a lot of like Viking ancestry. So I'm pretty much like English, Welsh, some Swedish, anyways. But it's Scandinavian for female warrior, empowered female, sort of like independent female, something along those lines. And she's, I think, the runt of the litter. She's this teeny little peanut, and her brother is 1.5 times her size, but she doesn't take any crap from him.
That's awesome. That's awesome. We have Skylar, who's 16 months old. And Skylar, I just love the name. And then I looked it up, and it means warrior.
Mm-hmm.
Who knew? And now she's mellow. And then we have Piper. And we have Piper because we were like, we couldn't think of a name. Like Heather wanted to name her after one of the TV characters of the millions of shows that we watch, right?
Mm-hmm.
And nothing was sitting right. And we're driving home, and she is screaming her head off. And we were like, man, she has a set of pipes. And we were like, that's Piper. There we go. So,
she earned her name.
She did earn her name, and she earns it every morning at about 6:00.
Oh, yeah.
But she's a good girl. She's going to be going to puppy school soon.
Oh.
But yeah, she doesn't know that when you hold her, that kisses is what you want, not jaws. It's like she jumps up and literally, like you hear her go, like you can hear her teeth snap, and it's like, whoa, I don't want that anywhere near me. And I looked at poor Skylar, and her right side from where she's been biting her, like it's actually like a little raw. So I kind of cleaned it off before and put some Neosporin on it. So, and I'm like, stay away from her face.
Yeah.
So yeah, so now I have to play puppy referee, but so I can't believe we're at like an hour already. After all of that, now we're.
I know, time flies. We're having fun.
It's so funny because like I'll talk to people, and they're like, "Oh my God, an hour," and I'm like, "I'm telling you, you won't even know."
It was like 2 minutes.
Yeah, it just goes like that. So, okay. This sucks because I wanted to talk to you longer, but we will. We'll just have you on again.
We'll have more time.
We'll definitely have more time. Yeah. So the last question that I always ask everybody, and you probably know the answer to this, but is what lights Hayden's fire? Like what is your passion? What lights you up?
You know, it's really two. I kind of have like the personal and the professional.
Yep, and it could be whatever. So
yeah, it's the personal. I turn into like something just comes alive in me when I'm out on the water. We took a ferry out to an island in Casco Bay this past weekend and stayed out there. And even just taking the ferry, I was like, oh, I just feel like, you know, like my whole self is like awake and pumped because I'm out in the water and the wind's in my hair and the seagulls, and the boats. But if I'm on a sailboat and I'm sailing, I mean, I'm a happy Hayden. And then in business, I mean, there's just, when I hear my client, and this is really why I do what I do, when I hear clients say things like, oh my gosh, you know, since working with you, I'm less anxious, I'm less stressed, I'm working fewer hours, but I'm making more money, I'm spending time with my kids, I got to go to a workshop I've been wanting to go to, but never been able to take I mean, they just, hearing all that, it's like, yes, like that is the definition of being an empowered CEO and living the life you want to live, having your business support that. Really, your life and your business are in alignment and balanced, and you have work-life harmony. And that is, you know, more of what I want to spread more of that around. That gets me really pumped up, because the alternative is just unhappy people, and we don't want that.
Love it. Love it, love it. And I get the whole being on the water. I don't have Viking blood, but my favorite thing to do is be out on the bay, in the ocean. You know, my cousin, we usually stay with her for a weekend when we go to New York. And her husband he's a hunter, so he has like, you know, duck boats and like a regular boat. And my favorite thing to do is just get out there and go on the boat. You know, we harvested clams, which was amazing and delicious. Oh. And my sister-in-law, because we kept her in the divorce 100 years ago, is like, I'm standing in the ocean. And I'm like, Susan, you're in the bay on a sandbar. I'm standing in the ocean. I'm like, okay. So, so that was her passion for the day. But I love that that's your passion, because that's your dream, right? I mean, your dream is, your logo is your dream boat. So
yep. Every day to look at the boat. And I actually have a picture of the actual, like I have a vision board next to my desk. Every day I look at it, you know, that's my intention. I'm big on that. And I look at the boat, it's like one day.
That's right. And it may be sooner than you think, because the trajectory that you're on, not that you should be on it, but the trajectory that you are on is heading right there.
Here's hoping.
So well, I have no doubt. So
thank you.
So thank you for taking way more of your time than we thought out of your day today.
Oh gosh, my pleasure. And you know, we always laugh about everything, and it's even the tech issues, you know, we had fun with. Yes,
absolutely. So thank you.
A lot of bloopers.
Yes. There's going to be some expletives in there too, because I was like, I'm not cursing now. So, so thank you. And hang on a minute. And for you guys out there listening, and if you're watching, again, thank you so much. It means so much to have an audience, and you guys are leaving comments, and it's just, this has been my passion project, and I've been saying that a lot, but I really love what I'm doing. I love getting to speak with people and learn about their stories. And even when you know somebody and you think you know it all and you find out that you don't, I think that's even, you know, more cool. So thank you for being on this journey with me, because that's really what it is. And thank you for listening and watching and allowing me to do this. So I'm going to sign off for now. Until next time, this is Iris Goldfeder, and go out and find what lights your fire. Bye, guys.